Hello friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 1st of September and we are going to deal with three very important topics and one follow-up news. The topics which we are going to cover is, first is China includes places in Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin as its territories. Now Chinese government has released an official map of China, and according to that map, Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin has been shown as territories of China. Arunachal Pradesh, which is a state under government of India, and Aksai Chin is a territory in Jammu and Kashmir which is claimed by India to be its, but it is administered by China. So this is the official status of Aksai Chin. In this particular topic, we are going to deal with the history of these two regions, why China is making claims on these regions, what are the bases, what has been the Indian government's response to it. So we'll cover through this lens, and this is a very, I would say, important issue for this year's mains, because the boundary dispute between India and China has been long standing since 2020. We've covered these issues earlier, and the military, the government, both are trying at their level best to resolve the issue. And this happened after Modi and Xi Jinping met on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Johannesburg, South Africa, and they also discussed these land boundary issues over there. And now the Chinese government has released an official map claiming Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin to be its territories. So obviously it is a matter of protest by India, which India has rightfully done. And as aspirants, we need to look into the history behind these areas, which we'll be looking. Then next is about climate finance. It is from an editorial in Indian Express. And as the G20 summit comes up, climate finance is going to be one of the most talked about topics in this year's summit. Climate finance, which has to come from the developed world to the developing world. And remember, India is voice of the global south. Global south is the developing and underdeveloped world of Asia, Africa and South America. So India is definitely going to pick up this particular issue in this year's G20 summit. Having said that, the outcomes, what will be, we'll be watching closely over this. But again, here we need to know the basics, we need to know the history. What has been done till now in this aspect, climate finance, we'll see. Then next is flex fuel car. Flex basically stands for flexible, and Toyota has rolled out the world's first ever flex fuel car, which will run on 100% ethanol, as well as there will be an lithium ion battery installed in that car. While running, the battery will get charged and that car can also run as an EV. Now, the concept of flex fuel car we'll understand over here in this topic. So, this is there. This is important from science and tech point of view. And the follow-up news is Article 370. Now, what the Supreme Court has said on Article 370, the judgment, or I would say not the judgment, but the case has taken an interesting turn, and the Supreme Court is asking the central government about restoration of the statehood to Jammu and Kashmir, to which the Solicitor General has replied that to Jammu and Kashmir statehood will be restored, but no timeline was there with him. But for Ladakh, statehood will not be restored as of now. It is not under the plan. Ladakh, again, this region, Aksai Chin region is bordering Ladakh, and that is why government wants to keep that territory under its control, does not want to hand it over to as a separate state. So just for the national security reason, this Ladakh will not be termed as a state anytime soon. Now, the first news is China includes places in Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin as its territory. Now, in an attempt to lay claim to areas inside the Indian territory, the Chinese government announced its new map. And this new map included regions or areas in Arunachal Pradesh and the Aksai Chin region to be Chinese territory. This is China's old habit as per External Affairs Minister Mr. S. Jaishankar. And he said that China has been doing it since the 1950s. Now, two areas are into news, areas in Arunachal Pradesh first and the Aksai Chin region, which have been included by China in its map. We look at them one by one. But before that, we'll first look into the entire boundary, that is India-China boundary. The red line which you are seeing is called as the LAC. LAC stands for line of actual control. A subcomponent of line of actual control is this line, which we call as McMahon line. That is the boundary between India and China in Arunachal Pradesh. So, this is the entire, I would say, boundary. The yellow parts which you are seeing are claimed to be disputed territories. So, Arunachal Pradesh per se is disputed according to China's claims. Aksai Chin is disputed. Some of the disputed territories are within India. You can see here. These are within India. So, we can say that these are the territories which are claimed by China but administered by India. Territories which is claimed by India, administered by China. Territory which is claimed by China, administered by India. And here in this news piece, we will be talking about two, I would say, territories, that is Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin region. Now, both of these regions are disputed since the very beginning. I'm not saying that this dispute is new. No. From the very beginning, these areas are disputed. And we can say that this is the gift of the Britishers to us. The Britishers did some treaties with the Chinese, which the Chinese did not recognize later. The Britishers were also not keen on, laying claims after signing those treaties, due to which certain conflicts have emerged post-independence. And, 1962, when China-India war was there, China made inroads into Arunachal Pradesh, and then all of a sudden they withdrew, but they laid claims on the Aksai Chin region. Aksai Chin region, which is uninhabited. Nobody as such lives there. It is very less inhabited, we can say. And, India handed over Aksai Chin to China. Aksai Chin region is strategically very, very important for China because it gives a strategic passage to Chinese from the Xinjiang province of China to Tibet. And that is why the Chinese wanted this region. So, the present status is that a territory which is claimed by India but administered by China. Jawaharlal Nehru, while giving an official statement in 1954, recognized this territory as part of India, Aksai Chin. But later on, in 1957, we came to know that the Chinese have built a 1200 kilometer long road from the Aksai Chin, which is connecting the Xinjiang to the Tibet plateau. Then after this war happened, we sat on the negotiating table. They said that we want this. And we got this, Arunachal Pradesh. So, this is, I would say, the brief story about both these regions. But yes, let us look at them one by one. So first, we'll pick up the Aksai Chin dispute. The Aksai Chin dispute, during the time of the British rule in India, two border agreements were signed between India and China. First was the Johnson line and second was the McDonald line. Johnson line was proposed in 1865, and according to the Johnson's line, Aksai Chin was under India's control. This is 1865. But, around 28 years down the line in 1893, McDonald line was proposed, which placed Aksai Chin under China's control. But 1914 onwards, 1915 onwards, or you can say in the second decade of the 20th century, there was civil war going on in China. So the Britishers again resorted back to this, Johnson's line as the boundary between British India and China. However, no military build-up, nothing such was there. That is why it is uninhabited. So this was the scenario. India considers Johnson line as correct, whereas the Chinese consider the McDonald line as the correct border with India. At present, line of actual control is the boundary which is separating India and China, and line of actual control actually is this. Means, according to line of actual control which is presently drawn, we consider Aksai Chin as part of China. So this is there, but the Johnson line was over here. This was the Johnson line. According to the Johnson line, we make claims over this Aksai Chin region. That is why it is a territory claimed by India and administered by China. The McDonald's line is here. Which happens to coincide with LAC also. So this is the basic, I would say, dispute between India and China on this Aksai Chin region. Now what is McMahon line? McMahon line is the eastern boundary between India and China on the eastern side, that is in Arunachal Pradesh. Now the disputed territory in the eastern sector of the India-China is over the McMahon line. McMahon line we can call it. Representatives of China, India and Tibet in the year 1913-14 met in Shimla to settle the boundary dispute between Tibet and India and Tibet and China. During this Shimla conference, Sir Henry McMahon was the Foreign Secretary of British India, and he drew up the 550-mile, 890 kilometers McMahon line as the border between British India and Tibet. The line was drawn from the eastern border of Bhutan to the Isurazi Pass on the China-Myanmar border, that is the eastern side. So, dispute is what? The Chinese say, despite signing this treaty in 1913-14, the Chinese government of today say that those Chinese officials which signed this treaty of 1913-14 did not belong to the present regime, that is the communist government. Hence, we do not recognize this treaty. Earlier, Arunachal Pradesh was part of Tibet before this treaty was signed, and it is believed that the McMahon line, or this Henry McMahon, took Arunachal Pradesh into India. And that is why the Chinese keep on saying south of Tibet is Arunachal Pradesh. Now the McMahon line moved British control substantially northwards from Assam. The agreement ceded Tawang and other Tibetan areas to the Imperial British Empire. Subsequently, the Chinese government stated that it does not recognize the illegal McMahon line. China accuses India of occupying areas in Arunachal, which it calls part of southern Tibet. Arunachal is called as southern Tibet by China. China claims territory to the south of McMahon line lying in Arunachal Pradesh. China also bases its claims on the historical ties that have existed between the monasteries in Tawang and Lhasa. Lhasa is a city in Tibet, Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. So this is basically the story. And you might also have heard about the issue of stapled visa. Now visa is a document which is issued by the host country to the travelers, and on that visa the purpose and all is given. Now in 2011, 17, now also 2023 also, there were few people who were residents of Arunachal Pradesh. They applied to go to China, and one among them was an IAS officer also. China told them that you are traveling from your country to your country. Why you need a visa? If you would be traveling from India to China, then we would have issued you a visa. So what they did, visa is actually pasted on your passport. So what they did, for those people, they pasted a slip and stapled it on their passport that no visa required. That was called as the stapled visa issue between India and China, which time and again keeps on surfacing. It has got surfaced in 2023 again. In 2011, way back, there was an IAS officer who applied for it and got a stapled visa. So India protested that why you are issuing stapled visa to residents of Arunachal Pradesh. Arunachal Pradesh is part of India. You should be issuing a proper visa. So it happens with China. Now, impact of the 1962 war on Arunachal Pradesh. Now, in the 1962 war, the Chinese soldiers were deep into Arunachal Pradesh. They entered and it was a clear-cut victory for them, but all of a sudden they retracted back. When they retracted back, it was basically due to unknown reasons. So they said that we are not making claims over Arunachal Pradesh and they are respecting the McMahon line. However, it continued to assert its claim over the territory now and then. Now they respected the McMahon line. In return, they got access to Aksai Chin. That should also be understood. During that period, 1962, we gave away Aksai Chin to them because it was uninhabited, and this Arunachal Pradesh was very much, I would say, strategic for us. So next piece of news is climate finance. Climate finance, the hard fact. Basically, the developed countries have their own logic of not providing finance to the developing countries. They say that why should we provide? The developing countries say that the climate change of today, which is happening, is due to the emissions done by you since the Industrial Revolution came into picture. Industrial Revolution, when it came, it were you who are developed today who emitted and caused global warming. Those are called as historical emissions. And the developed countries say that we did not have any other choice at that time. There were no alternate fuels like renewable energy and all were not there. These are new age inventions. So the developing countries say, okay, understood, but it is your moral responsibility to fund us, to give us the funds, because we are struggling and we are impacted by climate induced disasters. Climate induced disasters are because of climate change, global warming. Global warming is an established fact, is because of your emissions, the historical emissions. And that is why it becomes a major challenge. As India gears up to host the G20 summit in September, climate finance will be one of the most important issues for discussion. The climate finance obligations. Now, 1992 was a landmark year when it comes to, climate change negotiations globally. The Rio Earth Summit happened in the year 1992. Under the Rio Earth Summit, there were 3 conventions which were adopted. United Nations Framework to Combat Climate Change, UNFCCC. Another one was United Nations Convention on Biodiversity. The third one was United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. Limiting our discussion to UNFCCC, United Nations Framework to Combat Climate Change. Every year there were COPs, means meetings. The member countries who had signed and adopted the Rio Earth Summit, they were meeting year and year. And in the 15th such meeting, which happened in 2009, the year was 2009 and the place was Copenhagen. The developed countries agreed to invest $100 billion every year by 2020 in developing and underdeveloped countries or least developed countries. For what? For developmental projects. Obviously, these developmental projects were to be sustainable development projects, so that these developing and underdeveloped countries also develop. Why they agreed? Because of the historical responsibility. A bulk of the accumulated greenhouse gas emissions, the reason for global warming, have come from a group of about 40 rich and industrialized countries, usually referred to as Annex 1 countries in the 1992 UNFCCC. And that is why this rich countries, the Annex 1 countries, will be providing $100 billion to non-annexure countries, that is underdeveloped or developing countries. Now, this historical responsibility has become the basis for differentiation or differentiated burden sharing on developed and developing countries in climate change framework. We need to understand this. And this is a noble step, I would say. Not being from a developing country, I am saying this. But yes, whoever is responsible should be bearing the burden also. You are responsible for global warming. Global warming has happened due to emissions done by you historically. You have developed, you have earned the money out of it. The developing countries were at that time colonies. They were not able to develop. Now it is your responsibility to at least help them develop. They're already struggling. They do some activity, then they are impacted by climate-induced disasters. Losses and damages are immense due to those disasters. Then they work for repairing them. So it should be your moral responsibility of helping them. But the question is this $100 billion per year enough? How was this decided? We'll all look into this in this particular segment. Now, according to the IPCC, global emissions have come down by 43% from, or they have to come down by 43% from 2019 levels by 2030. It simply means that whatever the emission levels were there in 2019, from that levels they have to reduce by 43% by 2030. If this happens, then only we can be hopeful of meeting the 1.5 degree target. Now, what is this 1.5 degree target? COP15 we've talked about, which happened in 2009, Copenhagen, where we decided this $100 billion per year target. Similarly, there was a COP21 in 2015 in Paris. There we decided that by the year 2100, that is the end of this century, the maximum increase of the global average temperatures will be 1.5 degrees Celsius from the pre-industrial levels. This X degree Celsius is the average temperature of pre-industrial level. Pre-industrial levels is basically the 50 years from 1850 to 1900. So of these 50 years, the average temperature is X degree Celsius. From this X degree Celsius, maximum 1.5 degrees Celsius should increase, not more than this. Now, coming back to this point, we can be hopeful of meeting this 1.5 degree Celsius target by 2100 if by 2030 we reduce the emissions by 43% from the 2019 levels. This is what this first statement is going to explain. And obviously, for doing these emission cuts, money is required. So, that money has to come from the developed countries to the developing countries. For this, developing countries need at least $6 trillion between now and 2030 for meeting this 43% reduction. So, obviously, this figure states that $100 billion per year is not enough. Now, the loss and damage needs. Loss and damage is basically the damage done due to the climate induced disasters, and we need to repair those as well. The loss and damage needs of the developing and underdeveloped worlds happening due to climate induced disasters is around $400 billion every year. But the developed countries are only talking about giving $100 billion every year. So this $6 trillion is needed for doing emission cuts by 2030. This is separate, $400 billion per year. So obviously $100 billion is not enough per year. Against this, even a minuscule looking $100 billion per year that the developed countries had committed to raise from 2020 is not fully available. Now they said that $100 billion we'll be giving. But have they given till now? First of all, these figures or these statistics tell us that $100 billion is not enough. On top of that, that $100 billion also has not come. We'll see the true picture now. Out of the promised $100 billion per year, developed countries provided $83.3 billion in 2020. Not even fully met. And this was as per the report by OECD, and wait for it, $83.3 billion is inflated as much as 225%, according to the Oxfam analysis. There is too much dishonest and shady reporting. Moreover, the 100 billion target set in 2009 was seen as more as a political goal, since there was no scientific basis, no clarification that how this $100 billion goal was set. It was just set. It is like this. While funds available for climate finance have quantitatively increased, they are inaccessible, privately sourced, delayed, and not reaching the countries. Now, the next fact is also, eye-opening. Only 5% of climate finance comes in the form of grants. Means this $100 billion, only 5% is coming in the form of grants. Rest is coming through loans and equity, and which is obviously increasing the burden, or the, I would say, debt burden of the developing and underdeveloped countries. However, the COP 15 of 2009 mandated the developed countries to give it as grants, not loans, not equity shares, but as grants it has to be given to the developing and underdeveloped world. So obviously the true picture is disturbing, and that is why for India it is going to be one of the major agendas in the coming up G20 meeting. Next piece of news is the flex fuel car. Toyota Innova, Gadkari unveils 100% ethanol fueled Innova car. However, it has just been unveiled, it has just been launched, it is not available for mass production, or it is not available for public use as of now. The concept is ready. It will go into mass production, then only it will be available, and it is expected that by 2024 it will be available for public use. Now, what is this flex fuel car? Toyota Motors has unveiled the world's first fully ethanol powered car equipped with a flex fuel engine. Now keep this in mind, fully ethanol powered car. Okay. Now the Toyota Innova High Cross Flex Fuel MPV, multi-purpose vehicle it is called as, is designed to operate exclusively on ethanol. It is a plant derived fuel categorized as E100. Now you might have heard about ethanol blending in petrol. Ethanol is kind of a fuel on which the vehicles can run. How is ethanol produced? It is produced from various ways. Like there is this present second generation ethanol being produced. It is produced from the farm residue. Farm residue means rice husk and all, which the farmers in Punjab and Haryana used to burn and cause pollution in Delhi. Now by using that rice husk, not burning it, by using it, processing it, ethanol can be prepared. From sugarcane molasses, ethanol can be prepared. So this is being prepared from plants. That is why it is called as plant derived fuel. And since it is going to run on 100% ethanol, it is being called as E100. You might also have heard about the ethanol blending policy of the government of India, where the government wants to blend the existing petrol with ethanol. 20% ethanol will be there blended in 1 liter of petrol. So 1 liter of petrol now is 1 liter of petrol, but from 2025 onwards, 1 liter of petrol will be 800 ml of petrol and 200 ml of ethanol. Now this blending of ethanol into petrol, this is going to be mandatory. Now this blending of ethanol into petrol will save on the oil imports first of all. It will also, save on the emissions. This is considered as relatively cleaner fuel, this blended fuel. And ethanol per se is more clean. If it is 100% ethanol, then it will be more clean. So this is going to be that. Additionally, this car, that is Innova, will incorporate a lithium ion battery pack capable of providing sufficient power to enable the vehicle to operate in EV mode as well. Like what will happen? You'll start the car, you'll start going, and EV will be ethanol will be used for propelling it. After a certain period, the battery installed in the car, the lithium ion battery, will start to get charged. And when it starts to get charged, later on this EV, this vehicle will convert into EV. Those are called as hybrid vehicles. Now the concept of flex fuel car. A flex fuel or flexible fuel vehicle is an internal combustion engine, IC engine it is called as, but unlike a regular petrol or diesel vehicle. Now a regular petrol or diesel vehicle runs either on petrol or on diesel. But this flex fuel can run on mixture of fuels, petrol and ethanol or petrol and methanol. One such thing is there. Another level of flexibility is it can run completely on petrol. Another level of flexibility is it can run completely on ethanol as well. So flexible fuels are there. However, flexi fuel or flex fuel does not mean petrol or diesel. Diesel and petrol are not compatible. These engines are not compatible. But in this domain there is flexibility, either a mix of petrol and ethanol or petrol or ethanol completely. E100 we can call it, or P100, or a mix. If this level of flexibility is there, this is called as a flex fuel car. The most common, I would say, versions are blend of petrol and ethanol. This is the most common, or methanol. But these engines are also equipped to run on 100% petrol or 100% ethanol. So the present version of Innova is 100% ethanol and an electric car also. This is made possible by equipping the engine with a fuel mix sensor and an engine control module. These two sensors and this module is there, which enables this, shifting of fuels from one fuel to the other fuel. However, don't confuse yourself. Flex fuel does not mean petrol and EV. That EV is separate. But flex fuel is this. This is the flexibility which we can get. Now, next is Article 370. It is just a follow-up news. We all know that there is a case going on in the Supreme Court, and according to this case, the way Article 370 was abrogated is into question. During this, while hearing the judgments or while hearing this petition, the Supreme Court is looking into other areas as well, like 35A. We covered it that day, how justiciable it is, because 35A also has been removed. But here the case has taken an interesting turn, and Supreme Court has asked the Attorney General and the Solicitor General, the representatives of Government of India in the Supreme Court, that what is the timeline of restoration of statehood in Jammu and Kashmir? Has the government set any timeline? So, responding to this, the Solicitor General says that Jammu and Kashmir UT status not permanent feature. It is not a permanent feature, it will be restored, and the same was said by Amit Shah during his visit to Jammu and Kashmir in 2021-22. That this is not permanent. But Ladakh will remain one union territory, says Solicitor General. Keeping Ladakh as a union territory simply signifies that we have border tensions with China, which is neighboring that Ladakh. Just west of Aksai Chin is Ladakh. So the government wants its control over there because it is a strategic location, and this is one of the reasons for terming territories as union territories. Restoration of democracy is very important. Acknowledge this constitution bent, and that is why this question was asked, that what is the timeline of restoration of democracy, means making Jammu and Kashmir back as a state. Without Article 370 or with Article 370, this the judgment will decide. So keep following this judgment, and obviously keep following us, because we will be giving you some interesting updates on this particular judgment. So this is it from today's session. I'll be meeting you with more some more exciting sessions or some more exciting news pieces in tomorrow's session. Till then, keep studying, keep reading, and keep revising. Jai Hind, take care.